Feel free to check out my TeePublic after the video. 10 recent monster movies better than Godzilla King of the Monsters? Let's see what this is about. The Meg? Heard mixed things about that one. Krampus was good, but they don't acknowledge that Michael Dougherty directed that too. I heard great things about Crawl. Wait, 47 Meters Down 2? Alien Covenant? The Predator 2018? Is this the best you could come up with? Well, after reading that awkward hit piece, I felt the urge to make a list of my own recommendations of monster movies you should watch after Godzilla King of the Monsters. Before I proceed, I just want to make it clear that this video is really made for those who aren't all that familiar with the kaiju subgenre, so this list may consist of very easy picks if you're a fan. Also, I will not be restricted to a particular point in time, as I feel that the whole giant monster movie genre is something that should be appreciated no matter the generation. I am going to recommend 5 Godzilla movies, 3 other Toho films, and 2 non-Toho, non-Godzilla films. I'll also throw in a few bonus movies because chances are not all of these will pique your interest and you may want to explore into other parts of the genre. And without further ado, let's get to it. Number 1. Godzilla, 1954. Just to get this out of the way, I want to take you back to a time where nuclear weapons were a big concern. 9 years after the bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, producer Tomoyuki Tanaka flew over the destruction that was left behind in Operation Castle Bravo in 1954. This fear of nuclear devastation would then result in one of the most important films in all of cinema, Godzilla. A lot has been said about this movie, but there is no doubt that its anti-nuclear message and themes about mankind's hubris and the duality of man still hold up to this day. Now, I know black and white movies aren't everyone's cup of tea, but if you want something that's more updated or modern, then check out The Return of Godzilla or Shin Godzilla, as they essentially tell the same story, just with their own unique twists. A lot of people tend to act like they're above Godzilla movies and think that they're just cheap entertainment, but I feel like everyone should at least give it a shot with the right mindset. Number 2. Rodan, 1956. Easily one of the greatest monster films ever made, as it's made by most of the same people who worked on the original Godzilla. In King of the Monsters, Rodan was the ferocious fire demon that conquered the skies, until Ghidorah came along. But here in his first film appearance, you get to truly see Rodan in all of his glory. With such an iconic monster, along with some great storytelling, music, and just absolutely chilling moments, it is no wonder why to this day, Rodan is a fan favorite to many monster fans. Number 3. Mothra, 1961. Mothra was quite a show stealer in King of the Monsters, as she had this very angelic and beautiful presence about her. Like Rodan, Mothra also had a film of her own. Although it does have similar beats as the original Godzilla, Mothra still manages to be a very unique film on its own with a very fun cast, and the fact that unlike Godzilla and Rodan, Mothra is a peaceful entity who only causes destruction if you really piss her off. While I would recommend Rodan if you're looking for something with a more horror-esque edge, Mothra is a movie that absolutely anyone can enjoy. Number 4. King Kong vs. Godzilla, 1962. Up next in the Monsterverse is Godzilla vs. Kong, coming out on March 13th, which will be the second time these two monsters have crossed paths. Godzilla and Kong made their first film appearances in color in the form of one of the biggest battles to be seen on the big screen. If you're interested in the upcoming rematch, I go ahead and warm up by watching the original. Sure, it may be dated by today's standards, but that's the charm of this movie. After all, it is a comedy that pokes fun at the ever-growing popularity of television and even Godzilla and Kong themselves. Number 5. Mothra vs. Godzilla, 1964. Being the next major crossover event after 1962's King Kong vs. Godzilla, the Big G faces off against the previously mentioned Mothra. One of Mothra's eggs washes ashore, and greedy businessmen seek to profit off of it. This does anger an elderly Mothra, but at the same time, Godzilla awakens. And from there, it is an epic clash of nature's wrath against mankind's mistake. To many, Mothra vs. Godzilla remains to be a classic with its great story, characters, and its David and Goliath-esque narrative. Definitely give it a watch. Number 6. Ghidorah, the Three-Headed Monster, 1964. You have seen the golden galaxy-destroying space dragon cause serious havoc in King of the Monsters. Let's go all the way back to the 60s, where Ghidorah made his first film appearance in Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster. Known in Japan as Three Giant Monsters, Earth's Greatest Battle, this movie pits Godzilla, a young Mothra, and Rodan against the menacing King Ghidorah. Combining an espionage story with doomsday elements, Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster is one of the first big monster brawls in the Godzilla series. If you're a fan of the monster fights in King of the Monsters, feel free to check out its 60s Japanese equivalent. And if you like what you see, definitely check out its sequel, Invasion of Astro Monster, aka Monster Zero, as a little bonus. And if you just can't get enough of the three-headed terror and you want something that's a little crazy, check out 1991's Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah. Number 7. The War of the Gargantuas, 1966. Now let's push some boundaries a little, as there is a lot more to the kaiju genre than just Godzilla. Introducing the War of the Gargantuas, a loose follow-up to 1965's Frankenstein vs. Baragon. The War of the Gargantuas is about two brotherly creatures. The brown one, Sanda, has a fondness for humanity as he was raised by scientists. And the green one, Gyra, has a hunger for these humans and seeks to devour whatever is in his path. This eventually leads to the two monsters battling it out in one of the most epic climaxes in all of kaiju and tokusatsu cinema. Although I personally prefer Frankenstein vs. Baragon, the War of the Gargantuas happens to be more fondly remembered, whether it be through the home video market or television, and this is the first movie that Brad Pitt ever watched. Number 8. Godzilla vs. Biollante, 1989. Being one of the strongest entries in the series, Godzilla vs. Biollante is about a scientist who attempts to keep his deceased daughter alive by merging her DNA with that of a rose and Godzilla's. This results in the creation of the horrifying hybrid kaiju Biollante. Over the years, this movie has become a fan favorite as it not only showcases some of the greatest effects in the series, but also serves as a grim reminder of what could happen when mankind tries to play God and manipulate nature to his will. This movie and The War of the Gargantuas are also two of director Michael Dougherty's favorite Toho films. So if you like Dougherty's work, it's always a good idea to see what inspires him. Number 9. Pacific Rim, 2013. Stepping more into modern territory, Pacific Rim has gained a massive cult following and is hailed as one of the greatest modern sci-fi movies to ever be created. Director Guillermo del Toro was able to make a fantastic mecha versus kaiju action adventure that goes against your typical Hollywood blockbuster, as it tells a story of the world coming together to fight a common threat that could wipe out the human race. Pacific Rim contains beautifully crafted set pieces, a badass score, interesting characters, and of course, giant robots fighting giant monsters. It is a modern kaiju classic. And number 10, the Gamera Trilogy. Gamera is a monster whose origins lie within Atlantis, as he was created to fend off horrifying creatures known as Gyaos in the first movie, Guardian of the Universe. And in the next film, Advent of Legion, there is a more horror-esque edge to it, as the new threat is an army of parasitic insectoids known as the Legion. And in the final film, Revenge of Iris, a girl whose parents were killed by Gamera forms a bond with the monster Iris in order to have her revenge. The storytelling and world building in these films are handled with such great care, with some outstanding visuals and special effects on top of it. Picking just one of these films, let alone narrowing this list down to 10 films, was very tough, but if you're going to watch one Gamera movie from this trilogy, you may as well watch the rest, because any fan of giant monster films can and will tell you that Shusuke Kaneko's Gamera Trilogy are some of, if not the greatest, kaiju movies to ever be created. Now here are some honorable mentions that almost made the cut. With such a rich genre, it would be a huge disservice to not mention them. I would have put in Godzilla 2014 and Kong Skull Island, but I'm sure those were already a given. Colossal, starring Anne Hathaway, is a fun little flick, but there's a major tonal shift in the latter half that either hurts or helps the film, depending on the viewer, as it does hit a little too close to home for some people. And The Host is just overall an incredible film, and I really wanted to include it on this list, but I felt Pacific Rim and Gamera were easier to get into. So those are my picks for monster movies you should watch after Godzilla King of the Monsters. Hope you all enjoyed. Feel free to like, share, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and feel free to comment what other giant monster films you would also recommend. Anyway, until next time, take care everyone.